Hey, Cubs fans, and welcome to a brand new edition of Cubs on Tap. We are talking about a very fun win tonight for the Cubs. Cubs win 7-3 in this one. But for starters, I am Ron Luce, and joined tonight by the Juice Man himself and Mr. Joe Marras, making his second appearance on the podcast. Gentlemen, how are you doing?
Well, it's nice, second time around, second win I get to talk about. So
that's true. I was going to say, you've been lucky. You got 2 wins under your belt. Good for you.
Right.
We might have to have you on every episode then, if that means the Cubs are just going to win every game.
Text me in the 5th inning.
Hey, buddy, we need you. We need you, buddy. We need you. Juice, how you doing, bud?
Good. Yeah. Not only Joe extended his streak, Cody and Cassidy, good for them going to the game tonight, and they're undefeated this year. So I think that Venmo needs to grow a little bit more, and Cody just needs 2 tickets now to go to every game. But yeah, no, good. Like we said yesterday, it's good when the Cubs win boring. They are probably one of the lowest teams in terms of the MLB in number of boring wins. So nice when we can talk about some good things and not some nail-biting games and some runaway stuff. But a lot of good things to talk. We could probably do like a 2-hour episode on this one, to be honest, with the returns and with just everything that happened throughout the game. And just good to see at the end of the night. Great ovation for both Kyle and for John, and it went the way we wanted to. Right? They won the game. That's all you can ask for.
Absolutely. Juice, you and I talked about it on yesterday's show about like, hey, we want John and Kyle to have that nice feel. You actually talked about a Kyle Schwarber homer. You talked about John doing well enough. Juice, you kind of called tonight's game, man.
Yeah, a lot of what happened tonight. So I did say Javi Baez would go deep on John Lester, and he did. And I say that Kyle Schwarber would probably hit a home run. And John didn't get chased early like I thought he would. I thought that would be kind of the trend with how these hitters knew him, and he wouldn't last very long. But he's John Lester, and he's a gamer, and he's able to fight through 5 2/3, 5 1/3, whatever. 5 1/3. Yeah. And good for him to, have a nice homecoming. And I'll be excited to watch tomorrow's game as well to see his tribute video, because I really enjoyed Schwarber's. So yeah, kind of did. I don't usually get them right like this, but when we do, we reserve the right to have the floor and toot our own horn. So
hell yeah, you do.
I'll take a smile and an extra scoop of ice cream for my Cubs on Tap calls yesterday.
I love it, dude. Yeah, you nailed that. It's pretty crazy how you hit that on the head. But gentlemen, I mean, let's dive into this thing, shall we? I think for starters, you mentioned it, a great night celebrating Kyle Schwarber tonight. I kind of agree with what they did. I think it was kind of the right move not to do Johns tonight when he's got a pitch. It would have been cool in game 1 to have both of them at the same time, but nonetheless, we'll get to see John Lester's tomorrow. So it's the homecoming for these 2 guys, and the Cubs did exactly what we wanted them to do. They jump out to an early start on Lester. The Nationals kept it interesting. As we mentioned, the 2-run shot from Schwarber. Trey Turner hit an absolute bomb. And then things started to get interesting. And this is kind of where I want to open the floor to the Cubs on Tap crew, because we start creeping into those middle innings, and while Adbert Alzolay is dealing probably the only negative controversial thing that happened tonight, besides maybe that strike zone, but we'll get to that later. Alzolay gets pulled after 5. Joe, I know you were sounding off on Twitter, man, so I want to give you the floor first. Because, again, you even said it yourself, 63 pitches, and he gets pulled. So talk me through that, man. What's up?
So like we were mentioning right before we went live, I look down for a second. All of a sudden, I see David Bodie, stepping into the box, and I'm like, Bodie's not in the lineup. What's going on here? Because he gave up 2 home runs, and it's been an issue plaguing his nice starts.
Absolutely.
But the way that the Cubs offense was hitting, they were putting together good at bats. Alzolay was pitching pretty well, but this continues to be exactly what Ross has been doing, is pulling him early before even getting a chance to either see the lineup 3 times, which I get, the more and more analytics driven we get, the less you see of pitchers going 3 times through the lineup, but he hasn't even really gotten a chance. Yes, he's young, but, you see that relationship between him and Arrieta, but, what is Ari going to tell him? Hey, what does Alzolay have to do to be able to get, 3 times through the order.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a little disheartening because you want to give him the shot to either work out of his own jams or, learn from some mistakes.
Yeah.
So it's not fun to see. I was obviously really angry. I'm glad that was the only thing I was angry about today. Bullpen came in, did a nice job, but they're just not equipped to be able to handle 4, even 5 innings a game. I mean, our starters are averaging less than 5 innings a game. So we're going half starters, half bullpen. Our bullpen's been okay. They got a 3.49 ERA, which is, if you said that before the season started, we'd all sign up for that. But it's just not. It can't continue like this. They're not built for that.
Yeah, well said. I agree with you there, man. And a comment here I want to share really quick. Scott from our buddy Scott from Iowa, his 9-year-old pitches 75 pitches before he gets pulled, and he hits it with the hashtag just saying. But it's a good point. I mean, we talked about it at length. I feel like here at Cubs on Tap. It's at some point these starters need to be able, first off, which for a while we were concerned about, but then just given the ability to go at least 6. Like, if you can at least get 6 out of these guys, then maybe you're only using 3 guys the whole night to get through 7, 8, 9. Mm-hmm. But tonight, Tepera, thankfully, is able to go an inning and a third. Brothers gets the 2/3 done. And then you got Chafin, and then you got Tommy Nance, who we'll talk about here in a little bit, being able to get you through the game. But I agree with Joe. Eventually, this bullpen's going to burn out. It's not the 60-game sprint that last season was. You got 162 this year, and this was only game 40. So there's a lot of baseball still to be played, and if this bullpen gets burned out, it's not going to do them well. Juice, what are your thoughts on the whole situation?
Yeah, I agree a lot with what you said, Joe. I think the hard part is who's making this decision. Is it David Ross? Is it Adbert Alzolay saying, hey, let's save my arm for the future? Is it the front office, who's kind of in David's ear, like, hey, let's protect this guy? And I think the second question is like, when is it okay? When does he cross that threshold where he can go deeper into games? He's only went into the 6th inning at one time this year, and that was against the Atlanta Braves. And since then, you could make the argument he's been the second best pitcher on the staff, in a recent run here. And he has the stuff. Out of anybody on that pitching staff, he has the power stuff to get away with missing a spot or to, not have his best location, because he has that 94-mile-an-hour fastball, 2-seamer. He has the curveball, the slider, the changeup. He has so much in his arsenal where he's able to, get out of jams. And you almost start to think, like, when is it going to be okay? What's the moment where David Ross in the front office or whoever's making these decisions to say, hey, it's time we give this guy a shot to, see what pitching deep into ball games is like. Because the last thing we need is a guy who, is brought up for his first year, and he is kind of built to only pitch 5, and he's not exposed to that end of the game, last couple batters, fight through it, maybe on the spot, moving things around, being uncomfortable, not going with the, same pitch sequences that you normally would in, the first innings, because, that's when you have to get creative. Those 3rd times through the order, that 4th time through the order, if you get there. And that's the time where, I really wish for his development that they would just rip the Band-Aid off too. Mm-hmm. And this isn't a year where you should be careful with him, in my opinion. This Cubs team, as we've talked about on this, it wouldn't surprise me if they make the playoffs, but it also wouldn't surprise me if they didn't, considering that this is not a year where they went into 2021 saying, yes, we are 100% going for it. World Series or bust is our expectations. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of them moving around here in terms of let's see who works. Let's see, what we have for the future, pieces we can build on. But this is the only scenario I see in Adbert Alzolay that doesn't fit the mold of what Jed Hoyer said in the beginning of we need to build for the future. And the way they're handling him, I really wish today was the day to do it too. That Washington Nationals lineup, minus a few guys, is nothing to be that scared about. I know Turner's on a roll, and obviously Soto and obviously Kyle Schwarber got the best of it. But after that, there ain't too much left in that lineup that really worries you. So why not? And at worst, if you let him start the inning and he doesn't come through, have somebody ready. You know, I mean, it's not that difficult to get somebody up in the pen and get them ready to go. It's just I'm really curious on whose decision this is, because I'm sure it's not Adbert. He's a competitor. He wants to be out there. But it screams a lot to management. If I were making a guess, it's probably Jed Hoyer and the crew saying, hey, this is a guy who's going to be a staple. Let's protect that arm. But to me, it doesn't really make too much sense.
So to play devil's advocate here to defend the decision a little bit, maybe part of the reason the bullpen has been decent so far is they've been able to start with clean innings, right? So and just like it's continued to work out. You know, you give the bullpen, whoever it is, a clean inning, no inherited base runners, and they've been able to, provide us with, us quality innings. So that would be the only argument I could see. But at the same time, I mean, it's just we're not like the Yankees where it's, get to the seventh inning. We're not like that.
Right.
And in order to be successful, it's going to have to be just like how we saw Tommy Nance today. We're going to have, a rotating doors of guys coming up and be able to get quality outs. And I just don't see it. I mean, so going through, Alzolay averaging 79 pitches a start. I think he's made 6 starts. That's almost nothing, man. I mean, the bullpen's throwing more pitches than he is in a game.
Yeah.
And even we've only had 2 guys throw over 100 pitches in a game.
Yeah.
I know the game's different, but man, that's crazy.
It is crazy. And you add to that too, right? Like one of those 100 pitch games literally just came in Detroit. Like it was just yesterday. Like, so, I mean, that is crazy to think about. And I mean, I like what you brought up about, the idea of, clean innings. I also think too, and this is just a thought more so than anything else, but like I could see bringing in David Bodie in that situation if you're losing.
Okay.
But you weren't losing, right? And so, again, you have to make that decision as the manager, right? You have to say, is a possible run here more valuable, or letting my, pitcher who's just crushing it and absolutely striking everybody out do it? And actually, Baseball Booge brought up a good point here in the comments for us. He says the broadcast mentioned Adbert wouldn't face 3 lefties to start the 6th. So, there is a lot of consideration there. And I agree with both of you. I really do think it's something from up top because, he really hasn't done much. And I've looked it up, and Joe, it was 7 starts. Tonight was his 7th start. So You're right. Coming into tonight, it was 6. But, I mean, 5, 5 1/3, 4 2/3, 6, 5, 6, 5. And it's very consistently 5. It's not let's see how he's doing, and he can only manage to get through 5. No. That's not at all the case here. The case is he is just every single time you're cut off at the 5th inning, right? It's like you make the joke when you go to your local bar and the bartender knows you so well they know to cut you off after your 6th or 7th drink. That's what it feels like with Adbert right now, and it's unfortunate because. You saw it tonight. I think they even panned over to him in the dugout at one point. He looked pissed off, and I would be too.
Right.
You're dealing. You mentioned 63 pitches. That's nothing. That was the same pace that like Kyle Hendricks was on in Detroit, who ended up going 8+. So it's like when do you kind of take the training wheels off? A guy like Adbert.
And if that's the approach, at least just be transparent about it. I don't know if they've come out and said, "Hey, we're going to be real careful with this guy," because. He projects to the future, but I haven't heard a statement like that. They're just eventually letting us as fans figure it out that there is some type of restrictions that he has. But like I said, it's just time to figure out if he can do it or not too. We're not going to know if this guy's a top of the end starter until he can get to the 6th, the 7th. That's when we're going to really find out, if he can battle through it. We've seen him go 5 and look really, really solid. And I love the lefty comment that was brought up by Baseball Booge. I know that the splits are terrible for him, and that's something that he needs to work on. They're talking about it on the broadcast as well, that he needs to work on, fine-tuning that changeup, because that's going to be something that in the future he could really work against left-handed hitters. But the thing is, too, is to me the best way for him to work on that is to get in that situation. And I know they're trying to win ball games, and I know that, hey, it worked out for Ross tonight. But in the future, we need to figure out if this guy is going to be part of the top echelon of the lineup or the rotation. I think he's gonna, but I want to see him do it. I want to see him do it this year because, like I said, it's a figure it out year. There's a lot of things that they need to figure out in terms of, the top of the rotation, who's staying and going. And if you're not going to win a World Series, you got to get closer by knowing what you have on the roster.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you guys nailed it on the head. It's an interesting situation that's really going to need to be kind of kept an eye on, I think, and just to really get a feel of, what is going on, because he, to me, feels like a pitcher that the more confident he is, the better he pitches. So it's like, and I think we kind of saw that with the Cleveland game, right? Matt Duffy, kind of talked him down. I think these guys know that he's young and he's going to be frustrated, but you got to let him still experience that, because that's the only way he's going to grow. It's a double-edged sword, right? You want him to be sheltered, I guess, a little bit and, see where that goes. But at the same time, you want him to be able to develop. So it was an interesting decision at the time, but thankfully it worked out. I mean, it certainly doesn't hurt. Javi going Oppo, essentially right after Adbert was pulled. So that kind of took a little bit of the pain away from him being pulled. That also ended John Lester's night. And then in the 7th inning, an excellent job by Nico Horner, first off. Did a great job getting on base, first off, with a single, and then advances to second on a wild pitch. The throw goes into center field. He gets to third with one. It ultimately becomes 1 out because of Ian Happ. And then Sogard comes in the pinch hitting situation. Absolutely perfect dub. I believe, as our buddy Cody would like to say, that manufactured runs really do make your arm hair stand up. And that was kind of one of those runs. So that was really nice. And then Jason Hayward's single later in the game drove in Anthony Rizzo from second after he doubled the lead off the 8th. And that was all the Cubs needed. So 7-3 was the final score. And Cody on tap. Fellas, the baseball gods answered the call tonight. They sure did. Again, happy birthday, Cody. For those that are watching that follow along, it is Cody Del Mendo's birthday today. He and his lovely girlfriend were at the park today celebrating, and they're just continuing to keep that run going, as Juice mentioned at the top of the show. So happy birthday, buddy. You got a really nice game for your birthday today. But, I mean, guys, this was a good game. I mean, again, we talked about it. The John Lester and Schwarber are back. The Cubs come out and explode offensively. It felt like a lot of things went right in this game. And I think a perfect way for us to kind of round up this game and how it went was Tommy Nance getting to come in the 9th. The Jason Hayward insurance run really pushes it out of reach. The Nico Horner incredible play. Let's not forget about that. Gold glove play at second base, damn near short right at that point where he gets that ball to get out of a bases loaded jam in the top of the 8th. I mean, top of the 8th. I'm losing track of this game. There was a lot of things that happened in this game tonight. Right. I actually saw Danny Rocket tweet that tonight on Twitter. He was like, "It's a lot of action for a Monday night game." I'm like, "Yeah, it really is." But obviously, Tommy Nance, man, getting to come in, independently guy. Our boy Max Bain getting a big shout out. We'll have to send this clip to Max, but I know Juice just ordered his. I just got mine recently. Cody's got one as well. These are Max's t-shirts. They're pretty awesome. They're really comfortable too. So highly recommend everybody to check that out. But cool to see Max Bain get a shout out tonight. Cool to see Tommy Nance come in and have a hell of a major league debut in what really was, guys, just an incredible game all around, from the storylines to the performance on the field.
Right. I mean, is there really a better way to make your major league debut than getting the last 3 outs of a game? I mean, crowd's on their feet. Mm-hmm. Gets hug the catcher after the game, gets his first strikeout. That was awesome, man. That's cool.
Yeah, it is really cool. Juice, I mean.
Yeah, Jim Nance, Larry Nance, don't care. Tommy Lance. Tommy Nance. I'm all for him, man. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. 4 or 5 years ago, you talk about how the Cubs kind of lacked the amount of arms back there that were, viable for the future. And now, it seems like anybody that they bring up, we're like, oh man, that guy's got great stuff. It's a real testament to this organization, how they're scouting pitching and using Pitch Lab. And I think it's just a great kind of shift in the last couple of years that they've been able to do. But yeah, great for, like you said, Joe, get to hug the catcher, get to, hear Go Cubs go as you walk off the field, you feel part of it, and what a great moment. It's one of those that I feel bad. I'm glad we're talking about it because that's a game where, you make your major league debut at 30, but you end up making it in the game where it's a homecoming for two guys who won the World Series with the team that you're playing for. It's a moment that probably will be forgotten, but it's one of those that, like, I'm glad that we're taking the time to mention it because, I mean, his story in general, just to get there, a man who didn't give up on his dream either. That's a great story. It's something for, people to watch and, to kind of strive for. And I think it was pretty cool to watch him come close the game out. And, props to Jason Hayward for the insurance run in the bottom of the 8th. I know JD talked about it on the broadcast, because that's Kimbrel coming in for, the next inning if that doesn't happen. So, really nice win. But Larry Nance, Jim Nance, nah.
Right, I mean, not even to just like a nice debut. I mean, the guy's pumping the easiest 97, 98 you've ever seen. I mean,
yep.
Like I said, he was 6'6". I mean, the stuff at the velocities there. That Cubs, they're getting there with having velocity out of the bullpen, but they're still. I mean, they're the only team that doesn't have a triple-digit pitch yet. So
yeah,
guys like him are what's going to change that. So that's cool to see as well.
Yeah, that was really cool to see. And again, just an all-around feel-good night for this game. So again, we joked about it before we jumped on the show. Boring games where, like, this one was very event-filled, a lot to talk about. But if you're sitting there and your anxiety is low, or as Cody says, you're not getting heartburn, that's a good night. That's a very good night. We like less stressful games here at Cubs on Tap because that usually means the Cubs are winning. So
we could probably thank Nico Horner for that play that saved 2 runs too.
Yeah,
that ball gets through and it's not so much of it's more than a boring game for sure.
Absolutely, it's all of a sudden it's a no shit game. And then we're all stressing out there in that 8th, bottom of the 8th and that top of the 9th. And so nice to see them get the job done. Huge win today. They'll be back at it again tomorrow, and that's where we're going to start to kind of transition our talk here. I do want to bring up this one comment, though, because I'm intrigued just to get your guys' quick thoughts, maybe as a bit of a roundup of today's game, because now the Cubs are back at 500. They're 20-20 officially after today's game. So I don't want to say they're in it, but they're certainly not out of it, as Juice and I touched on very briefly last night at the end. They're only 2.5 out of first place after tonight, ladies and gentlemen. And they're only a half a game back still of the Milwaukee Brewers. So they're very much in it. And so that's where I want to bring up this comment from our buddy Scott from Iowa. Are the Cubs waiting to see if they need to push all in this year? With Intuit the break, I do it, is what he says. So I guess that's a good question. And maybe that pertained to the Adbert Elsley discussion we had a little bit too. Is like, hey, they're trying to reserve him a little bit because they're like, are we going for it? And we really want to be cautious versus just letting him learn or let's, go get this thing. So I want to hear your guys' thoughts. What is it going to take for you guys to say at what point and how many games out, or they have to be in first or whatever, for this Cubs team to really say, hey, we're committed to going for it this year in 2021, at least enough to make the playoffs? Not saying, go spend your entire farm system to go load up, but at least get maybe 1 or 2 guys to fill a couple of, kind of weaknesses for the long run going through the season. Joe, I'll let you go ahead and start now.
So I think it's really going to depend on how we look against when we play the Cardinals or even the Brewers when things get down to it. I know we still have yet to play the Cardinals. We played the Brewers. I think they have the edge on us by a little bit, but it's not by a huge margin. So I think it really is going to depend on how we play against the Cardinals and what the schedule looks like down the road. Is like, hey, we really need a left-handed bat to really get us over the hump against the Cardinals. Unfortunately, as much as we all would like to see it, I don't. It's going to be like a Tony Kemp kind of move. That's the move I see. I don't. They're not going to mortgage their future by any means. It's unfortunate. We're just, and like you said with Elzalai too. I mean, to even see if we even have a chance, they're going to have to see what he can do past the 5th inning as well. So there's definitely some things that we need to see before they're ready to trade anybody. So, yeah, I don't see them mortgaging their future for if they're even a few games back, but who knows? I mean, we'll see when we get there, I guess.
Yeah. Well said, Juice.
Yeah, I think this is a situation where maybe the Cubs kind of talk like out of both sides of their mouths. Maybe they, think about going out and trading for an asset that they can sign long term. I know me and you talked about this, Ron, last night. Just an idea of going out and getting a starter that is young, maybe who could project towards the top of the rotation for the future. If they think that they can sign him, since a lot of money's coming off, but it also wouldn't surprise me if in that same trade or a separate trade is made where they ship off guys that have some value now to stock the farm, all while kind of getting rid of maybe the guys in the farm system that they don't believe in as much, by getting an asset that maybe they can stick, within the club for a while. But I think, Joe, you hit the nail on the head there. I think it's really hard now to project where they're going to be. I mean, if they're in first place and they're winning ball games handily, at the trade deadline, I mean, you'd be stupid not to give this Cubs team, I think they deserve it. The ones that won the World Series, at least another run. But I think in terms of like the panel here, I think that would be really surprising to us if they were, leading the division by, a substantial amount by there. So I think what the sad part is, and the hard thing that Jed's going to have to kind of play through, is I don't think that this division is going to warrant anybody to run away with it. So I think that they're going to be in it at the trade deadline. And now it's going to be the matter of what's out there, what can I do to improve the ball club short term and long term. And I think that's the hardest part for a GM, is to go out there and not. It's easy to be the team that, like right now the White Sox are playing so well. It's easy for them to be that team with some prospects to trade and an idea that they're going for it because that the division is so weak. It's easy to be that GM to go out there and say, hey, what do you want for this guy? I think it's harder to be that 500 team that's, hovering around trying to figure out. It's easy to be a loser too. It's easy to be with the team that's, just mortgaging for the future. But I think it's hard to be that middling team. And the way we've watched, the first 40 games here, I think that's a lot of what we've seen out of the Cubs so far. They're really, really solid one night, and then they're really, really brutal the next. So I think the next 20 games decide a lot of that. And it'd be interesting to see, at game 60 where they're at, because I think that we'll have a better picture of what they'll be doing.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. It'll be interesting. I kind of am going to again, it's kind of not a group think, but in this case, I think we are all on the same page. It is a bit of a group think because I think they still add something at the deadline, but I don't think they're going to go crazy, right? Like, I don't foresee that, like, I would see at most think back to like the Castellanos move, because you just gave up two prospects that weren't really going anywhere in your system that had some talent. So it was like, okay, you didn't give up that much, but it was also for a rental. And like Juice, you and I talked about, unless they have a guy that sets them up for a few years, they're not going to want to move anything substantial. So it's like, you probably get, I think a Tony Kemp was a perfect example. You probably get, one of those kind of middle of the pack bullpen arms that they could add. I think kind of what people thought of Chafin when he was added next year, because he was still kind of figuring it out. He's really taken a big step forward to me if you just look at his career, at least maybe because he's playing in a bigger market now too. But, it kind of just that like, oh, okay, that's a nice move. Like, they didn't give up much. It helps. Cool. Let's keep rolling with that, because I really do think they're like, hey, this is the team that gets a chance, unless they're egregiously out of it. And then that's where I could see the sell-off that we all dread and hope doesn't happen. But otherwise, yeah, I agree with you guys. Maybe they add a piece or two, but I don't think they go too gangbusters on that one. So that'll certainly be something interesting to see. But gentlemen, I will quickly turn it back over to you guys for any final thoughts on this one, or are we ready to talk about Tuesday's game?
That was just a nice win. Hopefully we can at least lock up a series split ahead of facing Scherzer tomorrow. So.
Yeah, good point. Juice?
Yeah, props to Chris Bryant for leaving Kyle Schwarber some candy out there. Obviously, it worked. So, yeah, hopefully a lot of that stuff happens this weekend. I thought that was kind of a under the radar. See so much in tonight's game. That was a really under the radar kind of thing that happened that not a lot of people are really talking about. So, props to KB.
A very classic Schwarber home run to Taylor to left center.
Yep.
Very classic.
Low, don't throw that man a low fastball ever. That's just you're
asking for trouble. Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it was a loaded game. Like you guys said, we probably could sit here and talk for 2 hours about tonight's game. There was just so much happening, but it was a fun win. It was nice to see Schwarber and John back at the ballpark. Cool to see Schwarber's tribute video. So now we'll get to see Leicester's tomorrow. That's where we are going to turn our focus is to tomorrow's game because the Cubs and Nationals are back at it yet again. At 6:40 Central Daylight Time here in Chicago. The game is at beautiful Wrigley Field once again. And the Nationals are trotting out left-handed pitcher Patrick Corbin. Corbin, a good pitcher overall, just not having a good season. He's 2-3 right now with a 6.19 ERA and 29 Ks at this point. And the Cubs are trotting out Davies, who again in back-to-back outings now has looked really, really solid. Hopefully he can make it back-to-back-to-back. He is 2-2 on the season, 5.60 ERA and 22 Ks. He went 5 1/3 in that game in Cleveland on Wednesday, giving up just the 1 run on 5 hits. So he was really good. Hopefully he continues that. Once again, too, if you're trying to listen or watch this game, if you're in the Washington, D.C. market, 106.7 The Fan and Juice, what did we say it was? Maryland Area Sports Network, MASN.
Yeah,
if that's in fact the name of it, I really want somebody to tell me what it is because I'm legitimately intrigued and just too lazy to look it up myself. But let's just be honest. But if you're in the Chicago market, WRTO 1200, 670 The Score, and Marquee Sports Network are your usual suspects there. So, gentlemen, I would love to know your thoughts on this game. A little bit of a preview. Obviously, a fly the W pick. We all know Cody's for tomorrow, as it is Andrew Chafin, as it is always. But we don't know any of ours yet, so I'd love to hear from you guys. And Joe, I'll let you go ahead and open it up. What are you feeling tomorrow, and who's your guy for tomorrow?
So last time I was on, I went with Jock Peterson ahead of I think he had 2 hits the day after. I was a little surprised to not see him in the lineup today. So I'm assuming he'll be back in the lineup against the lefty tomorrow. But I'm going to go with Nico Horner. I think, he ended up being 1 for 4 today, a couple lineouts, and just a nice manufactured run. I think he's really going to start putting it together, and we might start seeing him batting leadoff soon, I think, if he continues to hit like this. So that's my pick, Nico Horner.
Very nice. Juice, how you feeling, man?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Davies. I've been riding that train. I rode it the last time. I'm going to ride him on this one too. I think he's kind of turned the corner in terms of locating his stuff, so that plays better for him. The lineup, like I said earlier, not too scary other than a couple hitters. So I'm going to pick him to have a good game tomorrow. Also, if you're going to make me pick a bat, I'm going to go with Wilson Contreras. Had a nice night tonight. Another lefty on the mound, as Joe said. So he seems to see left-handed pitching pretty well. So let's get another dub tomorrow, and hopefully both those guys have good nights.
Yeah, I will. Ahead of tomorrow's game, I will be doing the rain dance to keep the rain away. Because unfortunately, in the Chicagoland area, there's about a 50 to 70% chance at any given moment, pretty much in the game window. As of now, obviously that can change. I think it was supposed to rain today, and it barely rained, at least where I am in the south suburbs. So, will be interesting to see, obviously, for tomorrow. But I agree with you guys. I think Corbin having struggles this year. There are some guys in this Cubs lineup that have actually had quite a bit of a success against him. Chris Bryant's hitting .455 against him in 11 at-bats. Happ, .429 and 7 ABs. Javi Baez, .357 for him. So, a lot of these guys are hitting really well against Corbin, and I expect them to be able to keep that up tomorrow. And then, obviously, my fly the W pick. This is tough. I like your Nico Horner pick. I really do. That's a good one. I always enjoy a Davies pitching pick from Juice, but Willie's a good second option as well. He looked really good tonight. That's a guy that really needs to get going for this Cubs team down the road here. But I'm going to go KB. I'm going to just ride the hot hand. I feel like he has his games where he'll quietly put together a nice game.
Mm-hmm.
He'll go 2 for 4 or 2 for 5, and it's a couple singles and maybe a run scored, and everybody's like, "Oh yeah, hey, good day, KB." I'm expecting good things out of KB tomorrow. I'm expecting KB to go yard tomorrow, as a matter of fact. So I'm going to speak that into the world, into existence, hopefully, as the Cubs will take on the Nationals once again. Well, gentlemen, before we get out of here, I want to remind everybody that is listening or that is watching along with us while we are live, that Cubs on Tap is the official Cubs podcast, the On Tap Sports Network. You can go ahead and check out all of our great literary and podcasting works over at www.ontapsportsnet.com and at OnTapSportsNet on social media. You can follow these pod-specific accounts, which is at Cubbies, that's Cubbies, on tap, and that's on both Twitter and Instagram. I am at Loose on Tap on Twitter. Joe is at Joe Marras on Twitter, and Juice is at Juice on Tap on Twitter. And finally, not only do we have great Cubs coverage, but we also have great Chicago sports coverage in general. So go ahead and make your way to www.ontapsportsnet.com or follow us at OnTapSportsNet on social media. The OnTap Sports Network, go ahead and check out what's on tap in Chicago sports. Every time, man, that is a mouthful.
Yeah, deep breath, buddy.
Deep breath. We got there. Well, gentlemen, this was a fun one to talk about. We'll keep it short. I know people got to go to work tomorrow. It is a Monday night, but we will be back with you tomorrow night on Tuesday. It will be probably at least one of us that's here on this call, and quite possibly the birthday boy today, recapping tomorrow's. As Juice mentioned, hopefully we're talking about a win and a guaranteed split with this Nationals team. And gentlemen, we'll get out of here the only way we know how to. Let's go
Cubs.
Cubbies.
Go Cubs, yeah.